Hello. So in this video, we're going to talk about Colleen Murphy's play, The Society for the Destitute Presents Titus Bouffonius. This is a Bouffon-style adaptation of Shakespeare's Titus Andronicus. Bouffon basically is a sort of grotesque jester-style form of performance that was inspired by the medieval like Festival of Fools or Carnival of Fools type performances, in which social hierarchies would be inverted. People who were normally outcasts from society would become sort of privileged. You would have the king of fools and things like this. So it in the medieval period, this is sort of according to Mikhail Bakhtin, who sort of developed the theory of the carnivalesque. This would work on the one hand as a sort of social safety valve, right? Because society let people who normally were repressed within social hierarchies, social norms in a very stratified society, let them sort of play at being kings, nobles, bishops, cardinals, whatever it was. At the same time, it was a protest performance, right? The people who were normally downtrodden, this was not a neutral performance. They used these performances, they used these sort of experiences of claiming a place within society as an indictment of that society that normally excluded them from having a place. These were often quite grotesque performances, and the Bouffon tradition today is still generally quite grotesque. And again, that's a sort of Bakhtinian concept, the idea of the grotesque as a part of the carnivalesque, the larger carnivalesque tradition. So characters driven by their appetites, both appetites for food, for sex, for violence, bodily functions are central, defecation, urination, all of this stuff is really central to these types of performances. And Titus Andronicus makes really good sense as a Bouffon performance because it is already such a grotesque play with this horrific violence throughout, including sexual violence, including dismemberment, the murder of children, forced cannibalism, all of this crazy stuff. And so it makes good sense to put that into a grotesque carnivalesque performance style. Michael Kennard, who is a performer, a Bouffon performer in Mump and Smoot. I don't know what that is. I don't have that as a cultural reference. It seems to be a Canadian thing. But he's also an associate professor at the University of Alberta. He describes Bouffon this way in an introduction to this. The Bouffon style was first created by Philippe Gallier and Jacques Lecoq in Paris in the 1960s. I may have pronounced those names wrong. If I did, I apologize. It was designed to help students be more comfortable performing in the grotesque and parody styles called point of attack. Gallier said, Bouffon are the hunchbacks, the lepers, the syphilitics, everyone that society has rejected. They come to tell us, God's beautiful children, that all aspects of humanity belong to everyone, and the grotesqueness of the Bouffon is the truth about humanity. The style was created based on the medieval Feast of Fools or Feast of Asses celebrations. On that day, the people who lived in swamps and gutters would be invited to come into town to perform for the people in power. The hope of these rejects was to make powerful people laugh at what they had performed, then go home and kill themselves after realizing that they, the people in power, were the cause of all society's ills. The performance was a form of protest. And that is what Murphy's play does. What the Society for the Destitute Presents Titus Bouffonius does is it takes the Shakespeare play and throws back in the faces of society as a whole the ways in which these themes of honor, of power, of social privilege, etc., lead to horrific suffering in so many cases. And we get this right from the beginning because we actually have a meta-theatrical opening in which the characters, the members of the Society for the Destitute, Boots, Leap, Fink, Sob, and Spark, come out and introduce themselves and what they're doing and why. So we start with Sob, who says, the arts educational outreach for people with green noses who write with their left hand, people with boils on their cheeks, people with pink ears and no feet, people who self-identify as pineapples, and people who live in poverty gave some of us, the residents of the Society for the Destitute, a $500 grant to put on a play. Thank you. Boots says thank you. Spark says thank you. Fink says thank you, taxpayers. I love you most dearly. Sob says some of the more artistically inclined residents met in the community lounge every second Wednesday to read plays by William Shakespeare. It was fun. Boots says it was fun. Spark says it was fun. Leap says it was fun. Fink says it wasn't. Sob says we read lots of plays. Leap says Romeo and Juliet. Boots says Macbeth. Fink says Titus Andronicus had the most murders. Spark says thank you, taxpayers. Boots, as Macbeth with a brogue. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps on this petty pace from day to the last Scylla. Sorry. Sob says Boots. Boots says sorry. Sob says, we found this old set at the playhouse and strung up lights, and now the big day is here. We only get one day to do our play. Only one. And this means so much to us. Before we begin the play, trigger warning. This is for our more traumatized patrons. Be warned that our performance may contain a few moments of interpretive dance. Now the players are going to introduce themselves. Boots says, my name's Boots. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I like to read books and take long walks on the beach. I wanted to be Macbeth in Macbeth, but in this play I'm Aaron, who is also the secret lover of Tamora, and I'm one of the narrators. Spark says, hi, I'm Spark. I play Tamora, Queen of the Goths. I guess I'm a recovering mother, because I'm trying to recover my 2 kids from fucking Children's Aid. The aides got them imprisoned somewhere in the back of a restaurant. I play a narrator and Tamora, Queen of the Goths. Sob says, Fink? Silence as Fink slowly and grimly makes his way toward an audience member. Sob says, Fink, introduce yourself. Fink says, mostly I watch people play video games like Manhunt, Kill the Rich, Super Columbine. I'm kind of a recovering kid because my mother left when I was 5, so I'm trying to recover her. She's got short hair and tattoos on her neck. I play 2 parts. Saturninus, who's the oldest son of the late Emperor of Rome, and Basanius, who's Saturninus' younger brother. 2 parts, and sometimes I play a narrator. Leap says, I'm Leap. Liza Elizabeth Amanda Peters. Leap for short. I'm going to be a veterinarian someday. I like to sing and dance and suck cock when I need money because I'm saving up to buy a rescue dog, hopefully a German Shepherd or a Dalmatian, and I play Lavinia and a narrator too. And then Sob says, and last but not least, me, Sob. I love watching old movies with Laurence Olivier, Alec Guinness, and Dirk Brogard. Men with chests. I enjoy the occasional glass of wine and have been out of prison now for 4 years, 7 months, 19 days, and 3 hours. I shall be playing the part of Titus and sometimes a narrator. We chose this play because it's about grief, vengeance, and the relish of murdering children, your own and other people's. Boots says, thank you, taxpayers. So initially, we are sort of launched into this really hilarious presentation of the characters, but also of the context of theater making, right? In countries like the US and Canada, a lot of theater. So a lot of theater is still for-profit theater, but there are also arts grants. And that's actually more prevalent in Canada and in the UK among the sort of major English-speaking countries whose theater funding traditions I'm familiar with, which is fairly limited familiarity, I will admit. But in Canada and the UK, there's actually substantially more arts grants available than in the US, because in the US, we don't give a shit about art because we have to spend more on our military than the next 12 countries combined, or whatever the fuck it is. Anyway, so a lot more arts funding exists in Canada, and it serves particular cultural purposes. And so we have this satiric take on what exactly the arts funding in this case is sort of going to. And it is, of course, ironic because Titus Andronicus is itself a culturally significant play, and I would say that Murphy's adaptation of it is a culturally significant and interesting play. And yet there is this sort of ironic takedown of taxpayer funding being used to fund a play about murdering babies and violent rape and dismemberment and forced cannibalism and whatever it is. And there is this, I mean, it does raise these interesting questions about, like, what is the function of culture in the sort of high culture sense? Like, what makes Shakespeare, what makes Titus Andronicus art, whereas the grotesque, the Bouffon tradition, things like this, are not typically considered high art? What is the distinction between high art and low art, and is it just Shakespeare's name? I think it's interesting questions. And then we introduce all of these sort of central themes of Titus Andronicus: devotion to the gods, sacrifice to the gods, honor, loyalty, all of these things. And they're all presented in as these sort of ironic failures, which is really a good reading of Titus Andronicus, in my opinion. Like, it is such a horrific play. It's such a horrific play, but it deals with these themes that are really central to chivalric culture, right? To classical culture, to these sort of high ideals. We still believe today in things like honor, in things like loyalty, the importance of these characteristics, religious devotion, etc., etc. And they're continually sources of significant suffering for large numbers of people. And I think Titus Andronicus makes that relatively apparent. And the Society for the Destitute Presents Titus Bouffonius draws that out. It makes the sort of violence and it makes the relationship between the values, the theoretically admirable values of the characters in Titus Andronicus, again, loyalty, honor, religious devotion, dedication to family. It makes the absurd violence and deprivations of those values central to the actual experience of the play. And this is one of the things that I love about adaptations. This is part of the reason I love being an adaptation scholar, is you go from reading a play like this, the Society for the Destitute Presents Titus Bouffonius, and you go back and you would reread Titus Andronicus, and you're never going to read it the same way again. Yes, the violence, the horror, the devastation of the play is still there. But having it set up in this way that points out the absurd social consequences of these values is going to fundamentally alter your reading of Shakespeare's play.